Hello everyone. I hope your day is peaceful and full of positive energy. In the previous episode, Diep's hiding place was discovered, but she has no idea. In the stillness of the night, dark figures are quietly tracing her every step, every breath. Let's dive into today's episode to see how the story unfolds. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support gives me the motivation to tell even better stories and helps me reach my first 1,000 subscribers. Diep had slowly grown accustomed to her new rhythm of life, a pace that was simple, unhurried, yet filled with the warmth of human kindness. Mornings here began softly, when the wind slipped through the cracks of the wooden door, gently stirring the little house awake. Diep would rise quietly. She lit the stove to boil a pot of tea, letting the scent of smoke mingle with the thin morning mist, then joined the elders in the garden, picking vegetables, gathering fruit, tending to the chickens and pigs. They were simple chores, almost trivial, yet to her, they carried a strange sense of peace and belonging. The plum trees by the porch were heavy with ripening fruit. Their branches bent low under clusters of plums turning from green to pale pink, glistening with dew, as though dusted with a soft, silvery powder. Diep followed the others into the orchard, a woven basket in hand, her footsteps light on the damp grass. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, falling across her brown blouse in delicate ribbons of gold. She gently parted the branches, her fingers brushing the cool skin of the plums before plucking them one by one. The faint scent of young leaves mixed with the earthy fragrance left by last night's rain. A smell of peace, of familiarity, of quiet tenderness. Amid the calm of that garden, Diep felt her heart settle. After all the storms she had endured, she was finally learning to find joy in the smallest things. Feeding the little dog, gathering grass for the buffalo, or simply sitting by the porch, watching raindrops fall. Somewhere else, deep within a narrow, dim alley, a small, damp room reeked of mold and thick cigarette smoke. A flickering yellow bulb hung from the ceiling, casting an unsteady light over an old billiard table, where 3 men stood in tense silence. The sound of billiard balls rolling echoed softly, clack, clack, each strike like the ticking of a countdown, marking the beginning of a new scheme. John leaned against the table, slowly swirling a cup of cold coffee. His eyes gleamed with that same icy sharpness, part calculation, part anticipation. Every time the cue ball hit the side of the table, his lips curved faintly, a thin smile, as if he could already see the downfall of his prey. One of his men bent forward slightly, voice trembling. "Boss John, we've found where Diep's staying. What should we do next?" John slowly set his cup down, his fingers tapping a steady rhythm on the table. The dry tap, tap sound echoed through the old room, sharp enough to silence the other 2. Then his voice came, low, calm, and cold as ice. "Not yet. When the prey feels safest, that's when we strike." Outside, the wind howled, rattling the rusty tin roof. In the dim light, half of John's face glowed under the bulb, while the other half sank into shadow. A reflection of the man himself, calm on the surface, but beneath it, an abyss of hatred and ambition. He pulled out a cigarette, the lighter flaring briefly. Smoke curled upward, coiling lazily in the stale air. A silent signal that the dark plan had just begun. James's wood workshop was shrouded in a somber tone. A light drizzle hung in the air, Mist clung to the stacked logs, the scent of resin mingling with the damp heaviness all around. He sat still, his chin resting on one hand, staring at the unfinished shipment plan before him. In recent days, orders had been canceled one after another, and the supply of raw materials had been delayed in a strange, inexplicable way. The atmosphere in the workshop was heavy. The saws had gone silent, leaving only the faint rustle of wind outside. James sighed softly, rubbing his forehead, his gaze drifting toward the timber yard, where the rain-soaked logs gleamed with a cold, dull brown sheen. A clear, uneasy feeling stirred within him. Something was shifting, quietly, yet dangerously. The recent troubles surrounding the workshop, he could sense it, were not coincidences. Someone, somewhere, was manipulating everything from the shadows. Suddenly, the sound of a car engine roared outside the gate, cutting through his stream of thought. A black sedan came to a halt. The door opened, and out stepped a middle-aged man in a neat brown suit, his slicked-back hair glinting faintly under the gray light, his gait calm and deliberate. He introduced himself as Quan, a seasoned timber merchant with years of experience in trading and distribution. His voice was low and steady, carrying the composure and confidence of a man long accustomed to negotiation. He said he had come to see James to discuss a possible deal, the purchase of lumber from his workshop. James was momentarily surprised. When he heard the words, 50 tons of premium timber, special price, ready for immediate delivery, his eyes lit up. A small spark of hope flickered in his chest. Just when he needed it most, it felt as though fortune had finally knocked on his door. Mr. Quan smiled, a calm, collected smile, but one that carried a hint of something far deeper, far more dangerous. Something James failed to notice. His voice was slow, deliberate, each word measured carefully, just enough to plant a comforting sense of trust in James's mind. I guarantee the quality of the wood. All you need to do is trust me. I'll handle the rest. His tone was so sincere that even the most cautious man would have found it hard to doubt him. James nodded, the tension in his expression gradually easing. He invited Mr. Quan into the workshop, showed him around the stacks of timber, his eyes growing brighter with each confident assurance the man offered. The afternoon rain had stopped. A light breeze drifted through, carrying the scent of resin and a fleeting sense of calm, a fragile peace. Inside James, faith began to return, as if the storms of the past days were finally beginning to fade. But Mr. Quan felt differently. When James turned away to jot down a few notes, the older man's expression shifted. The gentle smile vanished, replaced by a cold, calculating stare. His lips curved slightly, just enough to reveal a thin, blade-like smile. In his eyes, there was no longer the goodwill of a trader, but the satisfaction of a hunter who had placed his prey exactly where he wanted it. He believed the young CEO before him had fallen completely into the trap. Just one more step, and the snare would close, and James, still thinking he had found a stroke of luck, would never realize whose hands he had fallen into. Through the car window fogged with rain, Mr. Quan allowed himself a faint, chilling smile. The smile of a man who had just set a storm into motion. When the car finally drove off, James stood there in silence, watching it disappear down the road. For a brief moment, his heart tightened. He couldn't tell if it was from the cold evening breeze or from that quiet, uneasy feeling that something wasn't right. It was noon. The sun blazed overhead, its harsh light piercing through the canopy, scattering across the dusty dirt road. In the distance, 2 motorbikes sped toward the old village house, their engines cracking the silence with sharp, echoing roars. Moments later, a cloud of dust swallowed the small yard in front of the wooden house where Diep was staying. John sat astride his bike, not in a hurry to get off. Dressed in black, dark glasses masking his eyes, his face was cold and expressionless. He lit a cigarette, took a long drag, and exhaled a thin stream of smoke that curled into the scorching air. His gaze fixed on the old house ahead, where the sharp barking of dogs echoed restlessly. Beside him, Doe and another man, thin, sharp-eyed, dismounted, their strides heavy with intimidation. "Make it quick and clean," John said quietly, his calm voice carrying a cold, commanding edge. Both men nodded, then strode across the yard. Inside, the farmer and his wife startled. The husband, just tending the stove, quickly stood up, while his wife, crouching on the porch picking vegetables, froze, her hands trembling slightly. The 2 strangers entered without greeting, their eyes stern and cutting. "We're with the police," one of them said flatly, flashing a phone screen with a photo of Diep. "This woman, Diep. We've been informed she's here. We need to verify immediately." The small house seemed to shrink under the weight of their presence. Though clearly frightened, the woman stayed cautious, shaking her head firmly, insisting she didn't know anyone by that name. The air grew heavy. The only sound was the chorus of cicadas buzzing from the garden. Then the husband stepped out from the inner room, his tone steady and resolute. "If you're police, where are your papers?" That one sharp question made the 2 impostors falter. They exchanged uneasy glances, then, frustrated and wary, turned on their heels and left. Their plan failed before it even began. By sheer luck, Diep was away at that moment, in the forest gathering herbs to treat the farmer's injured leg. Had she been home, the outcome might have been unthinkable. And thanks to the couple's vigilance, her secret and her safety remained intact. Outside, John waited by his bike, his jaw tightening as the men returned empty-handed. A faint, crooked smile crossed his lips. Cold, calculating, dangerous. When the bikes finally roared away, the dust hung in the golden sunlight, swirling lazily above the empty road. Meanwhile, Diep walked back from the forest, her arms cradling a bundle of herbs, her heart light with peace, believing another quiet day had safely passed. But she didn't know. Danger had just brushed past her, and left only by a breath. In this episode, we've seen 2 worlds slowly collide. On one side, Diep's fragile peace, and on the other, the cold, calculated schemes of John and his father. While Diep has begun to settle into her new life, finding a fragile sense of calm amid the smell of wood smoke and the morning crow of roosters, James has unknowingly stepped straight into a trap. A timber deal that seems harmless, yet conceals a much darker plan beneath. As for John, he doesn't stop there. He sends men disguised as police to track Diep down, hoping to uncover her whereabouts. But by a twist of fate, Diep happens to be in the forest gathering herbs, and the elderly couple she's staying with are wise enough to say nothing.